thank you for being here. Thank you for this film. And I'd like, before asking the people asking questions, I'd like more or less how this project came from. The film, not the theater piece exactly. How you were interested in coming to put on this documentary, this fantastic to see how this work of art in a way brings to life, comes to life. And that's what I'd like to ask you first.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting the film, for inviting us, and thank you for your warm reception. The project, the film was an idea of Marina Abramovic. She asked me to she asked Bob Wilson, as you saw in the film, to make a show of her life, of her funeral and of her life. And while Bob Wilson asked Willem to perform in the show, Marina asked me to make a film about it, because she was aware of the fact that it was a very unique collaboration. It was the first time for the four of them, Marina, Bob, Willem and Anthony Hegarty, that they work together, and probably it's going to be the only time collaboration of this kind between these four artists. And also she was aware that it was a special project for all of them, because it was the first time that they were doing something like that in different ways.
And she gave you any, instruction and everything, or you were completely free to do exactly, what you want?
Marina is fantastic as an actress, and not only she didn't give me any instructions, but once she trusts you, Marina and I have been friends for almost 18 years now, so on one hand, she kind of maternally, she's protective and treats me obviously in a very affectionate and very maternal way. But on the other one, once she puts herself and her work in your hands, she trusts you completely, and she says all the time, just tell me what to do, I'll do whatever you want, I'll become whatever you want me to be. And of course, I saw that she did this with Bob Wilson every day while they were working on this, and it was pretty hard for her because Bob clearly creates a world that it's the opposite world of Marina's work. So as they expressed in some of the interviews, Marina, before making this show, hated the theater. She thought everything was so fake and artificial, and for example, I remember one day, and unfortunately I didn't film this, Marina, in the beginning of the rehearsals, the first day that Bob realized he wanted Marina sitting down on a square, something square on the stage. So Marina said, looked at this stage and said, Bob, can I at least have, I don't know, something like ice? At least, can I sit on a cube of ice, actually? So, this idea of torture or whatever that comes from her performances. And Bob was like, of course, Marina, tomorrow you're going to sit on a piece of ice. And the next day she goes, she sees the cube, and she sits down all happy, and then, she stands up like if it was disgusting, and says, Bob, but this is not ice, it's plastic. And he's like, of course, Marina, do you think I would let you, get wet and your costumes wet for the whole show just to let you sit on a piece of ice? So this was the kind of contrast that they were constantly dealing with. And of course, for me, it was easier because I didn't, put anything against Marina's work or Bob's needs or whatever. I just tried to be as invisible as possible.
And Willem, how you work with you worked before with Bob, I think. How this project came for you?
He just asked me to do this. I admired his work. You know, when I first came to New York City from the Midwest of the States, you know, as a young kid, 21-year-old kid, Bob Wilson, for me, was one of the things that was really going on and something that really inspired me, and I watched him for years. So he was someone that I was, you know, when he calls you up, I say, I don't really ask even what he wants me to do. I say, okay, you need me to do something, I'll be there.
And you knew Marina before?
I knew Marina before, but in a weird way, I knew her from Giada. I knew her from my son, worked at the gallery, for the gallerist that deals with Marina stuff in New York City. She also was my neighbor in New York. She lived next door to the theater that I had for many years. So I had all these weird connections. And I also knew Anthony. So these were all people. I mean, it's a little embarrassing in the documentary because it is a mutual admiration society. You know, because we're all saying, oh, you know, I really love this person, and the other person says, oh, I really love them, but I'm nervous because we don't know what this is going to be. That's a little embarrassing, but it's true. And also, when you're making something and you admire someone, it doesn't mean necessarily that you'll work well together, particularly when you're making something that's not either, you know, they're used to having control. I'm kind of the exception. I should stop talking. I can't even remember what I said in the documentary. Maybe I'm repeating myself. But it's interesting when we all came together. There was a little bit of a struggle there because we had to find out what the common ground was. And ultimately, it's Bob Wilson's show of dealing with Marina's material, and then people helping to realize that.
And something that Bob, you know, works in video as well. How he reacted to your, you know, way of directing and doing the documentary. He said something.
Bob?
Yes.
Bob hasn't seen the film yet, and I have to thank him for this, because he was very sweet from the beginning in order to let me free to do whatever I wanted and not get in the way. He said, actually he said it to my producer, he said, Max, I'm not gonna watch anything until it's finished and everybody has seen it, and so that I cannot say anything, because I know I'm a ball buster, and I know, you know, that I can then disappoint Giada, or, you know, and I don't want to. So he was very generous that way. Also, you know, Bob is famous for wanting total silence around him and pure concentration. As you see, he works in a very meticulous way. You know, he's very detailed. So I was aware of that, and I've been very careful from the beginning not to make me, you know, even visible, or to be in the way in any way. And I had to find a strategy to get interviews from him, because until I was shooting rehearsals, I found my way to, you know, to be invisible. But when it came to interviews, Bob hates interviews, and he says it all the time. And he said it to me, I don't know, tens of times. And I'm like, okay, but we're not going to do interviews, but just a conversation here and there, just so you tell me what's going on with you, you know. So I had to invent a way to basically ask questions without them sounding like questions, because otherwise he wouldn't answer. And that's what came out. But in the end, I was so happy with the result, because in each interview, and we did a bunch, at some point something clicked and he started talking, and I was like, oh, thank God. You know, sometimes it would take 10 minutes and sometimes an hour. But I always think that he's very inspiring when finally he gets to talk about his work, or because he's not academic in any way, and sometimes he's not even necessarily articulate, meaning, you know, he's not explicit about his work. But he'll tell you stories. In the beginning you think, why is he telling me this story? And then you end up realizing that, for example, remember when he talked about the story of this psychiatrist filming the mothers going to pick up the babies, right? He started to tell me the story, and I was like, I wonder where this is going to end. And then in the end, that was the story he told, and I realized that in every single show of his, there's that gesture, that, you know, that expression that he makes. So all of a sudden I knew where it came from, and, you know, it opened a whole new world of interpretation for me, at least.